Khabib Nurmagomedov is arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Yes, I said arguably, as in my humble opinion, there is another monster in the lightweight division that lays claim to that title. However, it's undeniable that Khabib has a very impressive record of 27-0 and has been extremely dominant in all his fights, so much so that he's only lost a couple of rounds in his entire career. He's been so dominant that his one mistake in his 27 fights against Michael Johnson is the only thing that his opponents can use to call him a human. In this video, I'll be breaking down Khabib as a fighter to understand why he's been so dominant and, more importantly, why is he so difficult to beat. I'll do this by covering off the following: Khabib's grappling ability, his relentless pressure, the unorthodox striking, and finally the factoring in the UFC scoring system. Without a doubt, this is by far Khabib's strongest point. His grappling is his bread and butter. He's just so ahead of the game in this department that no other fighter seems to be able to keep up with him. He has spent a lot of time honing and adapting his grappling to MMA and combining that with striking on the ground, or ground and pound, and has been completely destroying his opponents with it. His ability to control you on the ground and exhaust you there is very impressive, and what's even more impressive is how he's able to do that to everyone. Edson Barboza, who at the time had an 86% takedown defense, but still got mauled. RDA, a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, mauled. Ala Iquinta, despite his wrestling experience, still got mauled. His ground game just seems to be so far ahead of everyone, and that amazing wrestling combined with his next strongest attribute, his relentless pressure, makes for an amazing combination. Khabib has been wrestling and grappling for so long that he's able to keep up a crazy amount of pressure on his opponents. If you stuff one of his takedowns, you better get ready, because he's going to be coming at you with another, and he can keep that up for 25 minutes. And that's taxing, not only for your body, but also mentally, which is why so many fighters seem to break down physically and mentally when fighting Khabib. And Khabib really just needs that one takedown to start breaking his opponent down and beating them up on the ground. Imagine getting back up and wasting so much energy in the process only to find yourself being pushed against the cage, defending yet another takedown. That pace and pressure is just not sustainable for most fighters, and Khabib can do that all day. And Khabib's pressure and superior wrestling supports yet another important attribute, which is his unorthodox boxing. Now, to a traditional boxer or stand-up fighter, Khabib's boxing seems amateurish, but that's where they're wrong. Khabib's boxing, in my opinion, is perfectly adapted for him, and this again is because of that superior wrestling. The threat of the takedown is what led to that knockdown of McGregor, the KO of Thiago Tavares, and there are many more examples of how this led to Khabib connecting with some clean shots on his opponents. When Khabib's opponents feel that wrestling pressure, their instinct tells them to watch out for the takedown, and as a result, Khabib is able to land shots that would not have been possible in the absence of Khabib's wrestling. And we have seen this perfectly against Ala Iquinta, where he was so wary of a takedown that he had to adopt a very low fight stance to protect himself from the takedown, but this left him wide open for jabs, right hands and kicks. Again, these may not have looked impressive technique-wise, but they were effective in terms of doing damage and establishing dominance in the eyes of the judges. Now, speaking of judges, this takes us to the UFC scoring system, which is very crucial to examine. The judges use a criteria which first prioritizes effective striking and grappling. This means you're more likely to win the round if your strikes have an immediate or cumulative impact towards ending the fight, and the number of successful takedowns you can execute and achieve an advantageous position. In Khabib's case, when he does manage to take his opponent down, he's able to use his ground and pound to accumulate damage, thereby accumulating points in the eyes of the judges. So now, not only has he gained points for a takedown, he's also getting points for the damage he's dealing on the ground with his ground and pound. And it takes only one takedown for Khabib to basically secure a round. And this has what the first round traditionally looked like for Khabib in most of his fights. The second criteria is effective aggressiveness. Aggressively making attempts to finish the fight using striking or grappling allows you to win more points. With Khabib always pressuring his opponents and walking them down, his opponents are rarely ever able to display aggressive intent, as they're constantly being pushed back. And now combining this with the next criteria of the fighting area control, which rewards the fighter who's dictating the pace, place and position of the fight, we can begin to see why Khabib has the perfect recipe for winning rounds. In the eyes of the judges, Khabib is the one who's pushing the pace of the fight and controlling where the fight goes. He does not let his opponents dictate this, as they're too concerned about his takedowns and are more focused on the defense. So when Khabib is able to win a couple of rounds, his opponents are getting more anxious and now attempt to try to push Khabib back. and this is generally in round 3, where we see Khabib striking with his opponents. But again, with his opponents trying to come forward to win rounds or finish Khabib out of desperation, it opens up more takedown opportunities for Khabib, which further plays into his game. We can begin to see how his fighting style allows Khabib to accumulate points rapidly, and as a result, most of his fights are so one-sided when the scores are announced. Again, against Al Iaquinta, people thought Al did pretty well, but when you look at the scores, that was a complete domination. It's safe to say that Khabib is probably the most difficult fight for anyone in the lightweight division. Only a fighter who can match Khabib's gas tank and also have excellent ground game, where he's not afraid to get taken down, can really, in my opinion, keep up with Khabib. And in my view, there are 2 fighters who can really challenge Khabib, and they are Dustin Poirier and of course, Tony Ferguson. But UFC 242 should be a very exciting card, and I'm really looking forward to the main bout between Khabib and Poirier. If you like this video, please leave a like as it helps my channel grow, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave your comments below, as I'm interested to see what you guys think of Khabib Nurmagomedov and who you think will be his biggest test. Thanks for watching.